There. So there we go. Now we're live. Everything we say can be held against us. Before you launched the company, I've looked up. You did have a career as a tax lawyer, and I wonder if you could just tell me a little bit about that experience and how that kind of got you to the point where you decided that you were going to launch TAINA.
Absolutely. You're right. I'm a very experienced tax lawyer, and once tax lawyer, always tax lawyer, to be honest with you. So I still deeply feel for my profession. And last 10 years of my legal career, I spent with a global financial institution. And there is nothing like being inside a global financial institution, a very complex financial institution, to really feel the pain of the regulatory compliance and the burden, and how hard people try to get it right, and how frustrating it is not getting it right. And then FATCA and CRS, obviously within the tax space, is probably the most difficult thing to get right for a global financial institution. So that really what triggered TAINA. That's how I launched it to begin with. That's what gave me an understanding of the real gap, the real pain, the real need for a solution.
I also love to hear I think it's a very common thing with startups that frustration seems to be a very good motivator to get things going. And you notice the pain points in the industry they're in, and you just go, someone has to come up with a solution to fix this problem. So it's interesting to hear. But I wonder if you could just dig in a little bit more about that, because I'm curious. What was the sources of frustration that you saw when you were working as a tax lawyer that made me go, yes, we need to launch a solution for this?
Oh my goodness, where do you start? There is so much pain. And for different financial institutions, there are a little bit more of different types of pain. But generally speaking, if you look across the board, across the industry, you can classify it into three buckets of pain. It's three really painful buckets, and they exist in every financial institution to some degree. The first bucket is a bucket of risk, which as a tax lawyer, you really hate, like that thing you really don't tolerate. And risk is massive with FATCA and CRS. We've had CEOs of banks go to jail for their bank's failure to comply. We have had individual fines per financial institution exceed $1 billion, $2 billion. There's a $3 billion fine for CRS. So these are really massive amounts. Nobody wants to get it right. The risk is phenomenal. So that's one bucket of pain. It's all about the risk. And then as a tax lawyer, again, facing the audit, it is so painful. For some institutions, it literally took 2 years to go through a FATCA CRS audit. Then another bucket of pain is all about customers and your customer experience. As a traditional financial institution, you may have to touch your customer. If you've got 17 different business lines, you may have to touch them 17 times for the same document, which is very frustrating. For anyone who has ever had to complete a tax form, it is not fun. And I'm a tax lawyer, and I can tell you, I really hate it. And then typically 65% of the time, believe it or not, we human beings complete it incorrectly. So then the financial institutions come back to you again and say, hey, that form, remember that form you completed so kindly? I need another one because it wasn't correct, but I can't tell you why it wasn't correct. And it's just so frustrating. And so speaking with a customer who's just like, this is the 50th time, I don't want to be seeing this tax form. So it's customer experience. And another bucket of pain is all about cost. Cost here is a function of really wonderful, educated, highly trained people, because these laws are very difficult. Okay, there's a complex regulatory framework. Lovely, whether you are a new in a team and you're just coming in and you're facing all this paperwork and you're thinking, okay, I didn't do my MBA to be doing this, So it's a cost of really highly trained people. It's also the tech stack. Sometimes when we go live with a financial institution, we can streamline up to 11 different systems. The tech stack is out of control. So the cost, so those are the three things essentially. And for different financial institutions, they'll be slightly differently shaped, but they're present everywhere.
So risk, customer experience, and costs of all the manual labor. That kind of leads me into the second question, which was, why is it important for financial institutions, given these three buckets, to have a solution like TAINA, and how can that solution help them to, if not get rid of, then at least subdue and make these buckets of pain a little less painful?
Oh, absolutely. We are essentially addressing all of those three buckets. What we do is, if we take the risk first, we will essentially reassure anyone who is doing an audit on a financial institution in a really easy and quick interface. We can show a beautiful audit trail. There is, and also the rule set that the system is based on the best experts in the world. We work with three of the big four to essentially make sure that the rule set is really perfect, and we cross-test the system consistently. So there is nothing in the world that comes close to this rigorous framework of the rule set. So one is the risk of a regulator coming in and saying, hey, you're non-compliant, is eliminated, because you not only have the best rule set in the world, but you also have a beautiful ability to prove it. Unlimited period of time. So that's one. Another is obviously all about customer experience for lovely customers out there. And I always think about some of my friends who are, particularly if you have some US nexus to you, you really see a lot of these tax forms, and it's very frustrating. For the customers, we have built a beautiful online interface, and that interface can be on a mobile, on a tablet, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whatever device you have. It's a beautiful interface which will help you intuitively complete this thing. And we don't even have to take you through a form completion necessarily if you're on a mobile. So it's a beautiful, easy experience. We also give guidance, only the guidance that's been approved by the tax authority and the financial institution itself. So we're not giving advice, but we're giving guidance. What essentially it does is that 85% of the time when you would have to request a new form, you don't need to do that. The customer completes the correct form to begin with. Your first form was the right form. Now, what does it do? It means that 85% of the forms that are incorrect on our files currently will now be the right forms. And that is both good from the customer experience, but also it's easier for the financial institution because you don't need to put so many people on fixing these issues. And then finally, on the cost, the system essentially reads tax forms. We can do both the online, we can help get away from the tax forms altogether in the future. So paper forms are going to become the thing of the past. But for here and now and for the backlog, our system will also read paper forms. So no longer as a young analyst or even as an experienced tax lawyer in a bank, you no longer have to take this form and key in the information from the form into your systems and then cross-check all of the information. The system does all of that automatically. So the system will process the information. It will process the form in any format. It will grab the right information. It will do all the cross-checking. It will do classification and on to reporting. So it eliminates all of that manual intervention. What it does essentially is that for those wonderful, really educated, highly experienced people, they no longer have to do this keying in, which is really frustrating and mind-numbing. What they can do is focus on really high-risk stuff, which there's plenty of in the bank. They don't need to be doing this. They don't need to be paper processors. So those are essentially some of the reasons that financial institutions buy our platform. And we genuinely, there was one financial institution meeting that I'm thinking about in particular, who are now a client. The global head of their tax operation essentially said, it's like seeing an airplane fly for the first time. And it's just so profound, and genuinely, it revolutionizes the way people do FATCA and serious compliance, genuinely. And that's why we have the wonderful customers that we have, and that's why they stay with us for as long as they do.
With those three things it's able to do, like you said, it reduces risks, it helps cut on costs, and it helps reduce waste. Yes, because it helps people, like I said, get the right form 85% of the time. It makes me wonder, how does it do that? How, in your own words, how does the solution work? How is it able to help with all these three buckets?
I know it sounds very simple, but it's really, really, really hard to build it this way. We essentially had to build our own readers. So we had to build from scratch here in these premises here in London with our wonderful computer scientists and developers, working with three major universities in Europe, computer science universities in Europe. We had to build specific readers for tax forms. So the very first thing that the platform did to begin with, it dealt with the paperwork pain. It was reading tax forms in all formats. It was grabbing the information. It cross-checks it against the golden source information, be it tax authorities, stock exchanges, financial institutions' own data. So there's all kinds of this beautiful web of API connections. And then the real workhorse of the solution is the rule set. And this rule set is a beautiful thing. And on this rule set, we have the world's most influential experts in FATCA and CRS that are involved. And we believe in essentially working with all of the best people, and we partner very effectively, work very effectively with Big Four as well as our own wonderful, wonderful experts. That rule set essentially takes that digitized information, it goes through many variations of decision trees, and it comes out with a classification. So that piece alone, it saves anything between, for a very, very simple form, a very advanced financial institution, say 10 minutes to 45 minutes for a difficult form. So 10 to 45 minutes of time of a highly educated people. It's a seamless process. The form is read, the information is cross-checked, and it's validated, and we have the classification. It takes milliseconds. It literally takes seconds per form versus what in the olden days was anywhere between 10 and 45 minutes. And then we realized that the world is going to move on, and not that everybody's going to want to continue completing tax forms, by hand. And so we gave our customers a wonderful interface, which is the mobile and online and whatever tablet. So you can do the same. So in the new world, as more and more people go and online and use TAINA as opposed to be using, the paper forms, more and more the world will move away from paper forms. So we are facilitating that transition for financial institutions, and that interface will allows now customers of all types to complete the forms seamlessly. And there is also a journey where there is no tax form at all. So, our millennials, they don't like forms. And so for them, we have a special journey, which essentially doesn't involve a tax form. Now, what it essentially does is that not only it takes care of here and now and also the backlog of the paperwork that the financial institutions have, particularly traditional financial institutions of millions and millions of forms, which, often are not validated properly to begin with. But also going forward, it looks to the future and says, okay, but let's recognize that the world has changed. Let's give the ability to the people, to all of our customers out there, particularly millennials, to go do it on the mobile. So that's what it does. Essentially, it takes the information in whichever form, be it on the tax form, be it from a mobile of your customer. It then does all of the cross-checking, and it comes up with a beautiful result. I am making it sound probably magical, but it's really a lot of years and years and years of really hard work, a lot of focus by some of the best people out there, and this team is really truly committed to what they do.
Okay, so three parts. You have the readers, which is, if I understand correctly, that's the AI. That's the one that scans the document, understands what people are saying.
Yeah.
Then you have the rules, which
Exactly.
is what that you feed in. But I'm guessing these rules, they then decide how to decide on the first.
Yes, exactly. Yes,
So
exactly. Exactly.
So the middle part is not AI based, but it feeds into the AI.
That's right. That's right. And the middle part will then decide, okay, so I've got, well, so it doesn't decide, this is the rule. The rule set does the following. It takes the digitized information, it cross-checks that digitized information against various golden sources, validates it, and then it takes that combination of data points, and it goes through the decision trees and comes up with a classification.
Yes. And then you have the third part, which is the user interface, which
Exactly.
which is what everybody sees, but I'm guessing in the background you have those two other sets that you fill these
Absolutely.
in, you will get the result. You will be, what you fill in here will be put through the rules and then
Yeah.
fed into the data.
And then there's a lot of phenomenal amount of other functionality, which simply makes it a lot more easy for people to use and really easy, particularly for large financial institutions.
Mhm.
So there is a lovely workflow which allows for distributed teams, for the teams wherever they are. There is step-by-step, facilitation of the 4I approach. If you need to escalate to, if you need to make some changes. So there's a phenomenal amount of other functionality. And then we also can process batches of documents. Again, it's a real advanced feature in the readers where you can process very complex PDFs. But you've got it perfectly.
Excellent. Uh, I'm curious, from the point where you started, like you said, now let's launch TAINA. I think that's from the moment you said you want to start a company until you had your first version of your product, how long did that take?
Our very first MVP took about 6 months. Um, and it was a very crude MVP. It was very basic, but it allowed us to take feedback. That took 6 months. And then, but the importance, and of course, since then, it changed so many times, and we've rewritten the code so many times since then. Like, there is nothing left of that initial core. But the important thing there was that it was giving people something to see, and they could start to say, okay, yeah, I could see that would work well, but what you need as well is something else.
Mm.
So it was about 6 months, but that 6 months, after 6 months, it was able to process tax forms. It was able to process basic permutations of factors, validations, and that was the important piece at that time.
Yeah. And like you said, like with that feedback, you need that input, because if you are creating a baby, something that is so precious to yourself, you don't always see where the faults might be, or where it might need some extra muscle. So I'm guessing that feedback must have been so valuable.
It's precious, and that's why. So the platform now, and I'm not boasting because I'm really genuinely very humble. The platform has been rated as the best in class for FATCA and CRS validation. There's nothing that comes close to it. The reason it's as good as it is because there's hundreds of people's intelligence and experience that is in it. I have been having, and I still have, literally thousands of meetings each year just talking about what else is there, what other pains are there, are there any gaps, do you have any other pain? And that's how we have been deepening the functionality. So that feedback, you're absolutely right, it's gold, it's precious. I mean, frankly, probably the most invaluable thing that there is out there. And the wonderful thing about human nature is people just tend to give it because they love this stuff.
Absolutely, and people love to feel that they can be an expert in something because that new.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The value,
Yeah.
like, because you really want to hear what I have to say? Oh, I would love to
Yeah.
tell you. No,
And we really
that's
want to
me.
hear.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And we really genuinely want to hear. And often this is not your most senior person. Often it's the person who is on the front line actually doing,
Mm.
soliciting the forms or typing them in or, processing. And their experience is really valuable.
Very. Uh, which kind of brings me to the next question I want to ask, because the first iteration of the MVP, was that how you got to with your first customer, or did you get your first customer in any other way?
So the first customer found us during the time that we had our first MVP. By the time we went into production with our first customer, we already had a very stable production ready product. So we had a very, very, very intense building time between the MVP and the production. But the very first customer we had, they are a global insurer. They're still a customer. We still love them very, very much. We now work on bigger opportunities with them for the future. that global insurer was looking for something, for a solution. They couldn't find anything. They found us. We were little and obscure, but it worked because they didn't have very big volumes, so they were fine. And also they were really um, they were proper experts. You know, they could see that
Mm.
we were onto something. So they helped us perfect it. And by the time we went live with them, the platform was already production quality. It was ready. But yeah, it was amazing. They found us. It was inbound, and it was just precious. Still, one of the most precious relationships I really, really cherish with that insurer.
Excellent. And when you went live with that product, with that global insurer, did you already have those three vectors that we talked about earlier, the three buckets of pains, those three solutions? Did you already have all those three in place when you went live?
When we went live, we were targeting two buckets. We were targeting the pain of risk, and
Mhm.
we were targeting the pain of cost.
Okay.
We had the paper processing part, the capability. We also had the decision trees. So we were able to free up anything up to 84% of the time that people were spending. So we were uh, saving over 90% of cost. We were streamlining the tech stack. We were able to get away from people doing the paperwork. In our first platform iteration, we didn't have the mobile and the online. That came soon after. Um, so that was kind of like the next step in the platform.
Just to get the timeline right, what was this that you signed up that first customer?
This was 2017.
Okay.
Yeah. We launched TAINA at the end of 2016, and 2017 is when we went live into production with our first customer.
Yeah, and it's been growing since. It has been growing. The fact
Absolutely. Yeah.
that you had had a really successful Series A funding round earlier this year.
We
Uh,
did, we did. And that particular round for us wasn't really money driven. It was all about finding the right partners for us to grow for the next stage for what we needed to do. So we were looking for a really strong partner in Switzerland, in particular. Switzerland is a very, very big market for what we do. They have a lot of need for our solution. And we got together with Six, and Six is a it's like an ecosystem of 140 Swiss global and Swiss financial institutions. So they are a wonderful partner for us for many reasons, particularly for the Swiss market. So Six was one of our new investors. Anthemis is a beautiful fintech investor. We really, 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 really love working with them, and they bring in all of the experience of growing a proper fintech business, you know, really deep expertise in how you integrate and how you grow and how you expand your customer base. And then we also brought in two deeply focused fintech investors from the US, because the US is a big market of focus for us. So it was, that particular round was driven by what we wanted to do in the next stage of growth.
Excellent, fantastic. And you did mention different markets there. So if my records are correct, you are live in across Europe, and you are live in the US. Are you looking to anywhere else, or have I missed any markets?
You're exactly right. So the solution is actually applicable across the globe. So we could be used anywhere. We could be used in the Middle East. We could be used in Asia. In fact, we are about to go live in Asia with one of the world's largest institutions. So as long as it's in English, and the language also is not a problem for us, but out of the box, you can use it anywhere in the world for a global financial institution. In terms of where we are present and where we're focusing, so we're present in New York. We have a wonderful team in New York. We have a wonderful team here in London, and we are going to build, our next step is to build something in Switzerland, because Switzerland is a really special market and it is a special focus. So most of our institutions that we support, most of our customers are global. But in terms of our presence, where we tend to interface from with them is currently New York and London, and going forward is also going to be Zurich.
Okay. Okay, so, sounds good. Um, obviously this year has been a weird one, I think, to say the least, with the COVID-19 pandemic and everything. And you did manage to raise the Series A. You did manage to get these investment board, and so to help you spread across Europe and to push more into Switzerland, push more into the US. I wonder, how has the pandemic affected you guys?
You know, it's interesting. Pandemic obviously is a tragic thing,
Mm.
and we have had customers, you know, go sick and unfortunately even pass away, and that's very, very,
Mm.
very hard. As well as in the team, you know, we have had illnesses and some family deaths. So it's been really hard from that perspective. From the business side, it's been perversely it's actually accelerated the change that we support, which is people now realize, okay, we cannot rely on legacy systems. What used to be good enough, it's no longer sufficient. Now it's absolutely essential to bring in best-in-class systems that are not going to fall over. So wherever your people are, wherever they're working from, you've got that instant connectivity, that you're able to support globally distributed teams of operations, that you don't have 11 different systems to maintain, that
Mm.
you have, you know, customers who are able to use online system to go in and submit their information, so you can keep trading, you can keep onboarding your customers. So bizarrely, I guess it's perversely, it has been very,
Mm.
very good for the business from that perspective. And then, of course, one of the segments we support is online financial institutions who have been so busy.
Mm.
So for them, it's been brilliant, and what's good for our customers is really good for us.
Mm. Of course. Um, like I said, I think it's important note. Sorry, I think it's important note to make that there's a human cost to it. There's a human tragedy, like this, like you said. But at the same time, it has pushed for a digitalization of this industry and several other industries, which has been in the making for several years. But the pandemic has really pushed it to the front. There are lots of these companies digitalizing their offering in a way that they haven't done before, or accelerated that process. So absolutely. Um, I'm curious, are there any important regulatory developments happening in the space that TAINA helps?
Yeah. In FATCA and CRS, you see, one of the things about this particular particular set of regulations is that the US alone has already raised $10 billion, okay, from financial institutions. So it's a massive, massive revenue raiser for tax authorities all around the world. And so they're getting more and more interested in raising more and more money from it. So there is a couple of things that is really, really important, and a lot of financial institutions are going to need to focus on very, very seriously. One being the crypto industry. The crypto transactions traditionally have been uncertain about their treatment for FATCA and CRS. Now OECD said, okay, they're definitely subject to CRS reporting. That's a massive change to how they onboard customers, to how they validate all of that information. Huge, huge, huge change.
Mm.
And the US is expected to do the same for FATCA next year. So crypto exchanges, crypto players are going to be subject to these regulations for the first time, and this is a really massive change. Another change coming from a different direction from the US primarily is essentially it's all about a particular type of tax, which is withholding tax in the US, and the section number is 1446F. So anyone who is in the space knows that 1446F is going to be a lot of pain. So 1446F essentially is coming in and introducing a massive burden, and also potentially a massive revenue intake for the tax authority in the US. So that's something we're going to be, obviously we will be supporting the crypto exchanges and the crypto with our current solution. But for 1446F, we are going to be building a specific module to help financial institutions to cope with that, because that's going to help them a lot going forward.
In short, you won't run out of things to do anytime soon.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Okay. We have touched a little bit upon it, but because we should talk about the Switzerland expansion, the US expansion. Is there, and now we mentioned the assistance you will get for the cryptocurrency exchanges and for 4046F. What else is going to happen for TAINA in the foreseeable future?
Oh my goodness, we have such exciting plans on a number of different ways. You're right about geographic, so our geographic expansion, London, New York, now on to Switzerland. Really, really excited about that. Then we've got a tremendous amount to build. We have wonderful customers who are asking for more functionality, which is going to help them even more. So we have a really exciting roadmap. Keep pushing our solution. There is some really, really, really beautiful functionality that we're building. We're also running global industry forums continuously. We are now in a third global industry forum, and what that gives us essentially is an opportunity to bring the industry together and tackle the pain point for the industry together consistently as an industry. And then based on all of the feedback we get from all of those global forums, we then build beautiful functionality. So all of that is in the pipeline. And our very first global industry forum was about withholding statements. Now we're building tools for that. The next one is about electronic signatures. There's going to be a solution coming out for that. Everything we hear from the industry, we don't make any money from the global industry forums, but we're going to continue doing a lot more of them because it's our way to give back to the industry essentially for helping us build this amazing solution. And then for the team, traditionally it was only me who was essentially doing any transactions like commercially. We are now in the process of building a proper sales team, proper professional sales team who are going to be able to reach a lot more customers. And then on the segments of customers, the type of customers that we focus on, traditionally we were global, very large financial institutions. This was our starting point. We then added service providers, so fund administrators, Big Four. Now we're looking really focused, we're taking a really focused look on all of the crypto and then the online traders and the smaller financial institutions. So the future for us is, in terms of the customer base, is a real broadening of the focus. We used to be focused on the top tier. Now we are understanding that we have a lot of value to give to fund administrators and the Big Four, and also to the smaller financial institutions as well as the crypto. So lots to do.
2021 is going to be really exciting.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm curious, all the things we've talked about, all the journey that you have been on, which sounds amazing and wonderful. Is there anything that we have missed talking about, or is there anything that you would like to emphasize that people should really know to understand how TAINA works and what you are all about?
Thank you so much for asking that. I think if we could take away 3 things out of this, that would be absolutely amazing. One being that the platform has been genuinely rated the top in class. We went through all kinds of rigorous reviews through RFP processes and through independent process. For FATCA and CRS, for the niche that we cover, it is genuinely best in class. And it's not me saying it, but it's external experts. That's one. Another one is that we believe in leveraging the best brains out there in the world, and we work with all of the world-renowned experts, whoever they are, in whichever Big Four they are, or inside as well, to make sure that the rule set is absolutely the most robust and will protect our clients. And that the third one is that the team here genuinely is the world leading expert. So we've got Rashid, who used to head up global tax operations for Goldman Sachs for 20 years. We've got Jake, who used to head up Bank of New York Mellon's global withholding and reporting. And we've got some of the best developers, some of the best technology and products. So the team is genuinely, it's a relatively small team for what we do, but they are. And I strongly believe that that's what makes, those 3 things make TAINA really, really special. We partner with all the world leaders. We have the best, absolutely the best team. And as a result, the product really is the best.
Okay.
We did it.
I think we did it. We did it. Thank you so much for
It was amazing to meet you, Eric.
Nice to meet you too.